On the day Austin got engaged to my sister, I sat in the front row of the audience. Seeing me, he inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. Linda, have you had enough trouble? Apologize to me. All the guests were terrified, unsure who he was talking to, because I had already died. Today was exactly 7 days after my death. The day before I died, Austin broke up with me. Because he was going to get engaged to my sister, I gathered my courage and asked him, Austin, can you not marry her? Austin's dark brows furrowed, his expression displeased as he tightened his grip around my waist. Linda, if you need money, just say it. Playing games is really nauseating. Don't forget what you're here for. Do you really love money that much? Love taking things from others? Isn't that lowly? My expression turned somber. I hadn't forgotten. I existed because my sister Fiona had a heart condition and couldn't engage in strenuous activities. But my parents didn't want to miss the opportunity to climb the social ladder through Austin, so they had me, the debt collector, take my sister's place to serve Austin. Yes, serve, a completely unequal term, but with enough disparity in wealth and power, and parents who didn't treat me as their own. All talks of human rights and women's rights became insignificant. Your sister will recover soon and can get engaged and married. You're just a fake. Get lost quickly. Don't dream of monopolizing your sister's wealthy fiancé. What kind of life does your sister have? And what kind do you have? Do you think you're worthy? My mother's cursing echoed in my ears. With a heartache, I smiled faintly and tightened my embrace around Austin's neck. Yeah, I am a bit short on money. How about another $500,000? The dim light hid the tears in my eyes. No one would believe that I, the substitute, truly loved Austin. Seeing you getting engaged. I too want to turn over a new leaf. Consider this money as a dowry for the years I've been with you. The day I died, Austin really had a bad temper. Hearing me say I wanted to get married, he coldly turned away, leaving me feeling utterly empty. Then, he gave me 2 options. Take back what you just said, or get out. He often made me choose before, usually between apologize or get out. I usually chose the former, after all. His definition of getting out meant literally standing outside the door all night, but this time, I decisively chose the latter. Pretending to be carefree, I hopped out of bed to pack my bags, and before leaving, I reluctantly kissed Austin on the lips and smiled brightly. Austin, thanks for taking care of me these 3 years. Goodbye. Apart from the things Austin gave me, I really didn't own much. After all, a person without a home dares not possess too much. After packing, dawn was approaching. I pulled my suitcase, quietly left the room. Austin was already dressed in his home clothes, waiting for me in the living room. He coldly tossed me a check for $500,000 as a breakup settlement, his face more somber than I'd ever seen. His eyes trembled and his lips parted slightly as he spoke again. Linda, if you soften your stance now, you can still take it back. Isn't it money you want? Here it is. His words hit me like a meteor striking Earth, and I nearly dropped my suitcase in shock. Austin, the primary heir of the Lincoln family, people always had to smile and grovel before him, begging for his mercy. When has he ever offered anyone an easy way out? But as great an honor as it was, I never planned to take that way out. Austin, brother-in-law, I wish you and my sister a happy marriage. With a sincere blessing. I turned around smiling, then, tears streamed down my face. My fingers clenched around the suitcase handle, turning white as I cried and laughed. Well, I lost a lover but gained $500,000. That's enough for Grandma's surgery. She can live healthily for much longer. For much longer. I died. The soup of oblivion tasted a bit bland. There's no green onions. It doesn't taste good, Grandma. I looked up and gave a pale smile to the angel of oblivion. Have you seen my grandma? She should have been here half an hour before me. You could learn from her. Tears of blood streamed down my cheeks as I smiled tragically, my heart breaking. Her soup was the best in the world. She was also the only person in the world who cared for me. It's my fault I couldn't save her. But why, Grandma? I was just one step away. Just one step. The angel of oblivion watched me with deep, dark eyes. Then, he touched my head, his touch icy yet somehow warming. Child, you did your best. A flash of white light. And when I opened my eyes, I was back among the living, bound within a 5-meter radius of Austin as a earthbound spirit. The first day after death, I floated aimlessly, watching Austin work. Austin still looked dashing, his suit jacket hung over the chair, with his shirt sleeves rolled up showing off his muscular forearms. The cufflinks were my choice, But what good did it do? No matter how well I served, I was just a replacement for my sister. After all, look at the life my sister leads, and look at mine. To Austin, my sister was his childhood sweetheart, the delicate princess he nurtured. He would never let her handle these trivial, domestic tasks. Using me, the unloved debt-collecting ghost, suited him just fine, but Austin seemed to be waiting for some news today. He never got it. He kept picking up his phone, unlocking it, checking, and then angrily throwing it down, especially as the workday ended. His face darkened as if ink could drip from it. Strange, but truth be told, without me reminding him to eat on time, be aware of the weather, or share trivial matters. He really didn't share much news. It turns out I used to be such a chatterbox. No wonder he was annoyed with me. The day after I died, Austin's expression grew increasingly grim. Once home, he threw away all the little trinkets that once belonged to me. That was harsh. He gave my sister diamond jewelry, but all I got were freebies. I didn't mind. I treasured every single one of them, yet, he had the nerve to throw them all away. Monica, the housekeeper, nervously asked him, "Young master, should we bring Miss Linda back?" I couldn't help but shake my head as I stood beside them. "I'm dead. Where would you find me? And it wouldn't exactly be bringing me back. It would be more like dredging me up." Austin, with a cold face, turned and went upstairs. No need. Strangely, that night, he slept in my room, hugging my pillow. The third day after my death, Saturday, Austin took the day off work and burned all my photos. Although the Lincoln and the William families have been friends for generations, I haven't lived with my parents since I was 10. Naturally, I wasn't as close to Austin as my sister was. After 3 years of being just a substitute, I didn't even have one proper photo with him. All these photos were snapped by me, secretly and with great effort. He just burned them all in one go. Why didn't he just dredge me up and burn me too? It's so cold at the bottom of the river. The fourth day after my death, Sunday, Austin took an axe and chopped down the tree I had tenderly cared for 3 years. He personally uprooted the roses I had cherished and nurtured. He really is heartless. He knew full well these were all my hard work, because my sister likes fresh flowers, but only the most vibrant ones just plucked. That's why my mother forcefully changed my college major to horticulture, to make me study it, after I was with Austin. He even allocated a high-priced area in the garden for me to plant flowers for my sister. I picked the freshest every day to take to my sister's hospital room. Now that my sister is almost healed, he had the nerve to uproot them all. Forget it, I won't hold it against him. After all, I'm dead, and without anyone to care for them, they would die sooner or later, just like if my grandma hadn't taken me in and raised me by scavenging. I, the second daughter of the wealthy William family, would probably have starved to death on the streets, unclaimed. Now, without grandma, I indeed died. They are the same. The fifth day after my death, Austin was still sleeping in my room, practically moved in. My parents and sister came, cheerfully discussing the engagement process with Austin. Although it was mostly them talking, Austin listened with a calm gaze, and suddenly, out of the blue, he asked, "Why didn't Linda come?" My parents and sister were momentarily stunned. Then my mother chuckled dryly, her demeanor nonchalant as she said, "That girl has always been wild. We can't control her. Who knows where she's gone off to fool around, never sticking to home." I listened from the side, pursing my lips. It wasn't that they couldn't control me, they simply didn't care. My mother had a difficult delivery with me and my sister, almost dying on the operating table when I was born. My sister had a heart condition, while I was annoyingly healthy. It's said that twins often have karmic bonds. One comes to repay debts, and the other to collect them. Clearly, I must have been the debt collector. My paternal grandparents were already displeased with my mother, and they used this as an excuse to criticize her at every turn, berating her as nothing but a burden. All of this, my mother blamed on me. She believed that I had stolen nutrients from my sister in the womb, causing my sister to suffer from birth and also causing her to face the disdain of our grandparents. Thus, everything I did was supposed to make way for my sister. So, while my sister suffered in the hospital, I wasn't even allowed to return home. They didn't even know where I lived, let alone where I am now. Austin just said, "Oh," and fell silent. A flash of jealousy crossed my sister's eyes before she moved closer to Austin, leaning on his shoulder. "Austin, Linda must be mad at me," she said. "It's all my fault for being weak and burdening Linda. If I weren't here, she'd probably be happier. If Linda likes Austin as well, I should just step aside for her. My sister's words only infuriated my mother more, who quickly grasped her other hand and gently patted it. Fiona, don't be silly, you're the fortunate one, Linda, that ungrateful wretch. It was bad enough competing in the womb, but she has no place meddling in marriage affairs, my mother said, her eyes brimming with sympathy as she pulled my sister into an embrace, soothing her by patting her back. It's better if she doesn't come, we're better off without her bad luck. My sister nestled into my mother's embrace, weakly sobbing, but we are sisters from the same womb, and when it comes to marriage, I still hope for her blessings, she said, her eyes searching as she sneakily glanced at Austin. Austin, however, was preoccupied with his phone, his eyes downcast, lost in thought. I walked up to them, playfully whispering in Fiona's ear, Fiona, you're lying, you watched me die, and still, you pretend not to know, you're really cruel. After that, I reached out to my mother, murmuring wistfully, Mom's embrace, is it warm? What does it feel like to be held by Mom? It should feel like when Grandma held me, yes, it should. 6 days after my death, people kept coming to Austin to confirm the details of the engagement tomorrow, but Austin seemed distracted. Finally, he told his assistant Zoe, try to find Linda. He also sent me a message, Linda, come back, whatever amount of money you want, I'll give it to you. I couldn't help but smile. Why does he think I'm so fond of money? I'm already dead. Money is useless to me, but I don't want Austin to find me. I don't want him to see my body, such a tragic and hideous corpse. Naturally, Austin didn't wait for my reply. Frustrated, he threw his phone aside, his face ashen as he said, fine, just never come back. It was the first time I saw him act so childishly. I couldn't help but cry and laugh. Austin, this time around, I really outdid myself. The 7th day after my death, at the engagement party. After all, it was a marriage between two major families, so there were a lot of guests. Many guests were saying how perfect the couple was, childhood sweethearts walking into marriage. I was sitting in the front row, wanting to witness firsthand the man I loved the most marrying my beautiful and happy sister. But my mom, Alice, was sitting next to me, her expression grave as she texted my dad, where the hell are you? It's fine if Linda doesn't want to come, but you need to get back here. What could be more important than Fiona's wedding? My dad finally replied after a long pause, Linda is dead. She committed suicide by drowning herself 7 days ago. My mom's expression froze for a moment. For a time, she looked as if she had lost her senses. My dad continued to send messages. Her body was recovered last night. It's all over the entertainment news. Almost the whole city knows. The great joy of my sister's engagement day, and the unnoticed 7th day memorial of her sister's death. Isn't it ironic? The whole city knows I'm dead, yet my own parents are busy with my sister's wedding, completely oblivious. No wonder the expressions of the guests at the wedding seemed so odd. My dad then sent another message. Today is just her 7th day memorial. This is really bad luck. Oh, is he blaming me for dying at an inconvenient time? Blaming me for overshadowing Fiona's engagement? Dad, it's not my fault. It's my sister who chose this day, driving me to my death. She's reaping what she sowed, I guess. The music started, and Austin, looking dashing today, walked slowly with my sister to the altar. He was wearing a suit, but today he looked exceptionally handsome. My sister was also very beautiful, with makeup on. She had shed her previous sickly frailty and looked even more beautiful. We really are sisters. Even our taste in wedding dresses is similar. I loved the diamond-studded off-shoulder style that beautifully accentuated her slender neck and shoulders. How wonderful. If only one of us sisters could be happy, then from now on, my sister should carry on my share of happiness, doubly so. Thinking this way, I didn't feel so bitter anymore. After all, I was already dead. However, what was strange was that as beautiful as my sister stood there, Austin's gaze wandered through the audience as if searching for someone. Finally, to my surprise, his eyes met mine. With a sigh of relief, he looked down from his elevated position and said, Linda, have you caused enough trouble? Apologize to me. My sister's face suddenly changed, almost blurting out, Austin, what are you talking about? Linda clearly. I raised an eyebrow, thinking to myself that she almost slipped up, but my sister, true to form, quickly caught herself and forced a smile. Linda, she clearly said she wouldn't come. My mom next to me wasn't so composed, almost driven mad by Austin, her face pale as she looked towards where I was sitting. Austin, what are you talking about? Who is there? My mom was visibly shaken. Austin paused, clearly pointing at me, his gaze sweeping over the many guests. She's right here. Can't you see? The faces of my sister and my mom changed. The guests were in an uproar. Some of the more timid ones had already started running out. After all, it was my seventh day of death. Skepticism was no longer an option. My sister stepped forward, grabbing Austin's arm with one hand and clutching her chest with the other, biting her lip. Her face exuded a delicate fragility and allure that even made me want to embrace her. Austin, stop it. Linda said she wouldn't come. It's chaotic now. I'm a bit scared. My heart is uneasy, and I feel uncomfortable. We're still in the middle of a ceremony. Don't let this little thing. Austin didn't care, shrugged off her hand, his expression darkening as he strode down to stand before me, his brows furrowed. Linda, what are you playing at? I was shocked. It was the first time my sister using her heart condition as an excuse didn't stop Austin. Before, whenever she complained of heart pain, even at 3 in the morning, Austin would leave me and rush to the hospital to be with her. Once, I had acute appendicitis at 3 in the morning, and on the way to the hospital, because of a word from my sister, he made me get out of the car and take a taxi myself, utterly indifferent to whether I lived or died. Thinking this, I tilted my head and looked at Austin, giving him a faint smile. What can I, a bound spirit, perform? Seeing my silence, Austin's patience nearly exhausted, and it was unclear what he was rushing for. Linda, speak. At this, even more guests fled in panic. Even my mother had run several steps outside. My sister didn't move. Her face was ashen, her fists clenched, staring intently in my direction. But from the focus of her eyes, I was sure she couldn't see me, among the fleeing crowd. The only one going against the flow, Zoe, was particularly conspicuous. He walked through the crowd with a grave expression, stopped in front of Austin, took a breath. Mr. Austin, we've found Miss Linda. She committed suicide by throwing herself into the lake 7 days ago. Her body is now in the hospital. Austin looked as if struck by lightning, his dark deep eyes staring at me in disbelief. I tilted my head, giving him a mournful smile. I wasn't lying. I'm truly dead. The fact that Austin could see me, a spirit, was beyond both his and my imagination. Even with the news of my death and my body laid out before him, he couldn't believe it. He trembled as he reached out to touch my face. I didn't move, letting him reach out. Then his fingers clearly passed through my spirit, touching nothing but air. I felt this physical penetration was more shocking than any physical body could be. In the moment of crossing, the emotion in Austin's eyes began to shatter. It broke into an incredible tremor. He kept reaching out to touch me, to hold me, to feel me, but all to no avail. To my sister, my mother, and the other onlookers, he seemed to have gone mad. Austin shook his head, stubbornly reaching out. Impossible, impossible, Austin, I'm dead. I stood quietly, my emotions not fluctuating much, just feeling puzzled. Wasn't it said that you didn't love me? Wasn't I just a substitute for my sister in your bed, over the years? Haven't you bullied me for my sister's sake? Now, acting out this scene, what's the point? I had almost convinced myself that he truly loved me. Apart from Grandma, who else could love Linda? The day we broke up, I died. I died in the river not far from the hospital. The water was so cold at night, truly cold. As I spoke, I paused, tilting my head to reveal a pleading smile. My grandma's body is still at the hospital. I don't know how they handled it. Considering that I took care of you for 3 years, could you help bury us together? I'm afraid Grandma won't be able to find me in the next life. Austin's hands by his side began to tremble violently. He stared at me, his eyes gradually reddening, and then he suddenly roared and fiercely kicked the chair beside me. The row of chairs didn't budge, but the noise made everyone shudder. Stop acting, damn it, Linda, just stop, get out, stop playing, there's a limit to how much you can fuss. Linda, come out, TSK, he still has such a bad temper, always yelling at me. Can he only see me but not hear me? He doesn't think I'm some kind of hologram, does he? Should I turn into a mushroom for him to see? Mr. Austin, please calm down. It's Zoe, the assistant, who's handling things. Before Austin could become more agitated, he stepped forward and grabbed Austin's arm. Mr. Austin, listen to me. Miss Linda's body is indeed in the hospital morgue, and her death has been confirmed for 7 days. My mother and sister hurried forward, opening their mouths as if to say something, but Zoe stopped them with a look. Then Zoe looked earnestly at Austin. Perhaps, we should first claim the body and then decide on the next steps. Zoe spoke rapidly, fearing that if he spoke too slowly, Austin would explode. After finishing, he immediately let go of Austin and stepped back. Watching this, I couldn't help but admire him, truly. Special Assistant Zoe has a way with words. Maybe it's because my ghostly senses are dulled, but now facing Austin, I feel rather calm. He's right, brother-in-law. Today's the 7th day since my death. You being able to see me must be somewhat mystical. Maybe you won't see me tomorrow. How about doing a good deed and collecting my body to fulfill my unfulfilled last wish? After all, you've been quite harsh to me these past 3 years. Of course, you can refuse. Since I can't really do anything to you. Austin looked at me deeply, his chest heaving dramatically, the veins in his neck bulging. Just when I thought he was going to hit someone, he only said one word, "Let's go." Seeing your own body, what a strange feeling, so strange that I wanted to cover my face. Ugly, the body had been in the river for 7 days, truly ugly, pale and bloated. Even the shoes Grandma bought me had burst. My mother, as if she finally remembered I was her own daughter, stared woodenly at my body from the moment she entered. When she had received the news of my death through a message, she was just shocked, but now, seeing it with her own eyes, her gaze carried a hint of unfamiliar sorrow. How could she be dead? Suicide. In the morgue, there were a male and a female police officer. The female officer spoke, her face expressionless as she handed over a document, looking rather displeased. Her gaze swept over my sister in her wedding dress, my mother in her festive attire, and my father in his suit and leather shoes, said in a mocking tone, a smirk not reaching her eyes, "Dear sister goes missing for 7 days, and yet the wedding goes on without a hitch. If you ask me, you could have waited to finish the wedding, returned from your honeymoon, had a child, and waited for the child to be old enough to kneel and cry at the grave before you mourned. It would have been the same." My mother choked up a bit, suddenly finding herself in an awkward situation, on the verge of tears, which was somewhat comical. My sister pulled my mom back a bit and showed the policewoman an apologetic smile, her voice soft and gentle. "I'm sorry, my mom is just overly distraught and didn't think it through." The policewoman's sarcastic gaze swept over my sister's wedding dress and she simply responded, "Oh." I silently applauded the policewoman's sharpness. Austin, who was the last to enter, glanced at my body and his face turned cold. He turned away to face my soul, his voice indifferent yet stubborn. "That's not Linda. Linda is right here in front of me." I didn't respond, simply tilting my head and looking down at his hands. If Austin's hands hadn't trembled so violently as he spoke, I might have believed his denial. He clearly recognized me, but he didn't want to believe it. After speaking, Austin moved forward as if to grab my arm, but halfway through, he retracted his hand as if scared. He firmly insisted, "Linda, come home with me." The 2 policemen and my father looked at him as if he were insane. My sister, having recovered from her initial shock, gently explained to them, "The impact was too great, he's hallucinating." The male officer glanced at Austin's groom's suit and understandingly uttered, "Ah, the brother-in-law and the younger sister-in-law, quite close, aren't they?" The female officer coldly scoffed. I raised an eyebrow at the pretty-faced policewoman, thinking, "Oh, this sister has a story. She seems to know quite a bit about the dynamics between brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law." If I hadn't died, I would have really liked to chat with her about how I was used as a mere stand-in in bed. Devoid of any rights, Austin, ignoring other noises, stubbornly repeated, "Linda, come home with me." I laughed. "I have no home." Linda never had a home. Home should be a place you never worry about being kicked out of. How can it be a home if you're just thrown out at will? Austin, have you forgotten? Every time you came back from the hospital after seeing my sister, seeing her suffer, you'd get so angry that you'd kick me out of the house, making me sleep on the bench in the yard. Whenever my sister had a tough time, I had to be kicked out, no matter the time or weather, whether I was dressed warmly or thinly, and I had to always be on call, hardworking and compliant. My sister wanted to eat crabs in the middle of the night, and I had to cook them immediately, shell them and deliver them personally. A minute late, and I had to wait outside the hospital room for an hour. Then watch as he threw away the crab meat I had painstakingly shelled, because my sister, well, she couldn't eat cold foods. How could that be considered a home? Austin seemed to remember that, so he froze, his expression complex and solemn, but in the end, he still said coldly and stubbornly, "She is not Linda." we cannot claim the body." The policewoman took a few deep breaths, and finally could no longer maintain her composure, slamming the documents onto the table in anger, papers scattered everywhere, many falling to the floor. "Can't she rest in peace even in death? Linda suffered so much while she was alive, can't she find peace in death? How much do you hate her?" The word hate isn't quite accurate. Austin didn't really hate me, he just despised and looked down on me. Actually, Austin and I used to play together before I was 10, back then. He was very kind to me, he was like a caring older brother who, after spending time with my sister, would play with me. But that year, my sister's illness peaked. She would cry whenever she saw me. Crying that I had stolen her health, crying that I was the reason for her unbearable pain, crying, questioning why I could be so happy and carefree, why I could play with her brother Austin. Her cries broke my mother's heart, and her gaze towards me turned to one of disgust. That evening, my mother threw my dinner bowl and accused me of being heartless, wondering how I could still eat while my sister was so ill. Just when my mother was nearly about to hit me, my father casually remarked, "Since we have plenty of properties, if Fiona doesn't want to see her or let her interact with Austin, let her move out. When Fiona stops suffering, we can bring her back." That year, at 10, I moved out of the William family home. I never saw Austin again. 3 years ago, when we met again, I became a substitute for my sister's bed, and he became my benefactor. I still remember that gloomy, rainy day. Standing in Austin's living room, my excitement froze after hearing his first words to me. "Linda, long time no see, still as fond of taking others' belongings." I see. In that moment, I saw my parents in him. I realized that in Austin's eyes, I would always be a sinner who would spend a lifetime repaying for my sister's suffering. "Kathy." Suddenly, my father frowned and bent down to pick up a piece of paper. It was my bank statement. Most of the transactions were payments to the same person. After pondering for a while, something seemed to dawn on him. That maid who was fired for stealing from our house, why would Linda send her money? Tisk. The female officer let out a quick, soft scoff. Then, with a serious expression, she stared at my father and said, "Because she is the only person who has been kind to Linda over the years. She managed to keep Linda from starving or freezing to death by picking up scraps and doing odd jobs, supporting her for 8 years." After these words, the room fell into a deathly silence. It seemed like my sister was hearing this for the first time as she covered her mouth in shock. How could this be? Yes, how could it be? The second daughter of the wealthy William family almost starved on the streets. The police officer sarcastically shrugged again. After being exposed twice by her, my sister couldn't keep up her facade. She looked up at Austin, who was silent and grim. Then turned to our parents, tears in her eyes, tenderly clutching her chest. "Dad, Mom, has Linda really been living this kind of life all these years? Why didn't you tell me?" I almost laughed out loud. The way she spoke, as if they had ever cared about me. How could they know, when the housekeeper never followed their orders to give me a monthly allowance as they intended? Children who are unloved by their parents will hardly find love from others. The money given to me by the steward was used to pay for tuition and fees, leaving me with only $60 per month, just enough for 2 steamed buns a day, paired with pickles bought on a buy 5, get 1 free deal. Any extra expenses, like buying a pencil or an eraser, meant I would have to go hungry for several days. It was on a day when I almost fainted from hunger on the street that I fortuitously ran into my grandmother, who had taken care of me since I was young. She had been ostracized and deceived due to her honest nature and eventually driven away. She found me, took me in, and raised me. She gave me the warmth of a home and a shoulder to cry and be spoiled on. But in the end, I failed to protect her. 3 years ago, Kathy was diagnosed with stomach cancer, became severely ill, and was hospitalized. It was Linda who paid for her expensive medical treatment, and coincidentally, on the morning Linda paid for the surgery, Ms. Kathy passed away during the operation. Beyond saving, half an hour after her death, Linda also committed suicide by drowning herself in the lake. After finishing, the policewoman looked up at my sister and my parents. "Do you know even a little bit about this?" Faced with the policewoman's question, my mother shook her head repeatedly, her tone defiant and unapologetic. Why didn't she say anything if she had no money? "We have invited her over for family reunions over the years." She trailed off, her expression revealing a flicker of regret, because she clearly remembered. I had told them several times that the money from the steward wasn't enough and asked them to check. But how did they respond? Your sister is suffering in the hospital, and here you are, shamelessly asking for money. How can you be so thick-skinned? How do you deserve to live such a good life? And the most recent time they noticed I was out of money and sent some on their own was because I had agreed to be a stand-in for my sister, not wanting to appear too shabby and displease Austin. The room fell into dead silence. Austin looked at my sister, his gaze cold and chilling, making even me shiver. So this is what you meant when you said Linda agreed to be by my side, to compete with you for me. Was she jealous that you had me, a fiancé from a prominent family? Eyeing my wealth and power, Austin, I didn't know. I really thought. Fiona's face turned deathly pale as she clutched her chest, gasping for breath. She looked desperately towards my mother. Mom, my chest hurts so much. My mother's face was pale, clearly still in shock from my death. But Fiona's cry of pain brought her back to reality, and she hurriedly supported Fiona, like a hen protecting her chick. It was me who said it. I was afraid Linda had become greedy and told Fiona deliberately. I lowered my eyes, not surprised at all. Fiona's mother really is a good mother, but Linda's mother is not. Greedy, the policewoman slowly spoke up, repeating the word. Then, with a scornful smile on her lips and tears welling up in her eyes, she continued, to raise money for Kathy's treatment. She sold her blood and was almost deceived by a shady clinic into selling her kidney. Mrs. Lynn, I don't understand. They are both your daughters. What did Linda do wrong? Wasn't it you who gave her life? Did you bring her into this world? During Linda's times of suffering, were you ever there to protect her like you are today? Even just once, tears fell as the policewoman turned her head to look at my corpse. Her voice trembled violently. Except for her grandma, she never felt a hint of warmth, even in death. She died so coldly. The water at night was so cold that when I pulled her out, the chill seeped into my bones, making me shiver uncontrollably. What did she do wrong? Yes, what did I do wrong? It's not my fault my sister is ill. The disdain my grandparents have for my mother wasn't caused by my birth. If I could choose, I would rather be the one with the heart disease. Where did I go wrong? What did I take from anyone? Why don't they love me no matter how hard I try? My mother, bombarded with questions, turned pale, accustomed to blaming everything on me. She now found no one else to shift the responsibility to. Her well-maintained face drained of color. She took several deep breaths, but still staggered backwards. She stole Fiona's health. She took my. Stumbling, my mom fell to the ground, her gaze level with my pale corpse. She gasped sharply, shaking her head in terror. Mom, it hurts so much, I can't breathe. Suddenly, Fiona clutched at her chest, bent over in apparent agony, breathing heavily, uncharacteristically. Austin did nothing. But my silent father from start to finish rushed over, scooped her up, and strode towards the door. Hurry up. Don't let Fiona stay with the dead any longer. Forget about what happened to Linda before. She's our only daughter. We can't lose her too. Spurred by his shout, my mom seemed to snap back to reality, glanced back at me, bit her lip, and immediately followed. The policewoman clenched her fists in anger. This family deserves to die. If I were Linda, I'd drag them down to hell even as a ghost. Sister, ghosts don't have that much power. I drifted over, soothingly touched her shoulder. Thank you, stranger, Linda says. Thank you. Austin suddenly spoke up, his eyes red, staring at the policewoman. The policewoman was stunned, then turned her face away and started crying again. You don't deserve to speak for her. There's not a single good person among you. In the end, my body remained in the morgue of the hospital, unclaimed. Austin, ignoring the policewoman's anger, left the hospital with Zoe, his face cold and stern. Back in the car, his complexion was ashen, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, veins bulging, hovering in the back seat. I couldn't help but speak up. Austin, after the 7th day, I might really disappear. Could you at least claim my body for Granny? Shut up, Austin suddenly roared, startling both Zoe and me. Zoe tentatively asked, Mr. Austin, coolly, Austin commanded, get out. And Zoe immediately understood, opening the car door to leave. But just then, Austin added, find out where Kathy was buried. Yes, she responded, and closed the car door. Austin started the car without so much as a glance back at me. The scenery outside the window slowly receded, the silence feeling oppressive. I thought for a moment, then silently moved forward to the passenger seat. Austin, shut up. Austin kept his gaze fixed ahead, his profile sharp and stern. I will keep you here. But I'm dead, didn't you see my body? I protested. Austin's voice rose sharply, his expression turning icy. You're right in front of me. Why should I accept that you're dead? That's not you. I can't just claim your body. I shuddered again. Why are you so fierce? Why are you always in such a bad mood? Still yelling at me even though I'm dead. Austin clenched his teeth, his cheeks tensed. Then he muttered, I'll change. I was stunned. Austin continued, I'll change anything you don't like. Just stay. His tone suddenly softened, pleading gently. Linda, tell me, how can I bring you back? I frowned slightly, puzzled. Bring me back for what? I committed suicide. Suicide means I had no attachment to this world. With Granny gone, what was the point of me living? I didn't speak again, and neither did Austin. He just drove home. Then, he frantically started using all his connections, looking for a way to either revive or retain a soul. I used to be a skeptic, but now, being a ghost myself, I had no choice but to believe. I floated in midair, quite curious to see if there really was some shady method in this world that could keep my soul here, and Austin, true to his character, leveraging his money and influence. By 8:30 p.m., someone actually suggested a seemingly plausible method. In web dramas, they say burning rhinoceros horn can communicate with spirits. Rhinoceros horn, costing thousands of gold per piece, yet to Austin, it was nothing. He really was wealthy. The news of him paying a high price for rhinoceros horn spread quickly. Austin put down his phone, looked up at me, though not visibly excited. His eyes were bright. Someone will bring the rhinoceros horn soon. Linda, I can keep you. I will keep you. I floated down from the air, staring into the madness in his eyes. Austin, have you forgotten? You're my brother-in-law. You used to dote on and love my sister so much, and for her sake, you kept bullying me. When she cries, I must cry twice as hard. When she hurts, I must feel double the pain. Why then did you go through so much trouble to keep me here? What is it that you want to do? Is it because you think paying with my life for my sisters isn't enough? Do you want to bring me back to continue repenting, while she is the apple of everyone's eye? Am I just meant to be the grass? Austin paused for a moment, his lips moved slightly, and he lowered his gaze, no longer looking into my eyes. After a while, he spoke softly, yet I could hear him clearly. I don't want to lose you. It wasn't the answer I was expecting, but fortunately, it wasn't. These days, floating around him, his actions, when I think back, indeed seem like he might have fallen for me. Austin, do you know why I like you? I suddenly changed the subject. Austin's body jerked, and his expression froze. The first piece of candy I ever had was given by you. I still remember that taste. Realizing that something in this world could be so sweet, I am really starved for love, so desperate for someone to love me, that even a bit of warmth would make me try my hardest to get close. So, agreeing to stay with you wasn't just for the money but also to indulge my romantic fantasies. These 3 years of arrangement, while saving my grandmother, were also a way to indulge my romantic fantasies. Accepting the fact that I had fallen for Austin, but as much as I loved, I had my limits. I never thought of ending up with Austin, I just thought about ending the deal, saving my grandmother, and then decisively pulling away. When Austin liked my sister, he could accept such outrageous behavior as using me as a substitute. He not only insulted me but also insulted the word like. I couldn't accept that my whole family seemed to agree with this method. They didn't even think there was anything wrong with it. So, on the day I broke up with him, I told him, don't marry Fiona. Not, don't marry her, marry me, because that was my final piece of advice to him, nothing more. My sister, though not in good health, is very cunning. She's really not a good choice for a wife. But Austin responded to me with the words, are you cheap? With 3 years of disrespect and bullying, he answered me, so Austin, never say that you love me. It's disgusting. Austin's expression suddenly stiffened. His thin lips trembled as he was about to speak, but then his phone rang. The ringtone was urgent, as if tearing a slit through the dense sadness filling the room, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Austin wiped his face and picked up the phone. It was Zoe. Mr. Austin, someone has delivered a 2-pound rhino horn. The payment has already been made to the person. Also, we have found the burial site for Ms. Kathy. Should we bring Miss Linda? Austin's fingers tightened, his knuckles turning white from the strain. After his chest heaved violently a few times. He coldly refused. No need. I raised an eyebrow, not surprised at all. Zoe, clearly not surprised either. paused and then added, while searching for Ms. Wang's body, I was monitoring the hospital surveillance when I spotted someone familiar. The last person to see Miss Linda and Mrs. Kathy before they died was her. Austin's brow furrowed deeply. Your fiancée, Fiona. I'm not sure if the rhino horn ritual really works, but after the 7th day, I surprisingly didn't vanish. Austin didn't sleep at all that night, staying up with me until dawn. At the moment the sun peeked out, his tense chest finally relaxed. He looked up at me and flashed a victorious smile. Linda, I've kept you here. I sat by the window, quietly watching the white smoke from the burning rhino horn rise, without turning around. But in my heart, I replied, have you really kept me? Can you really keep me, even if he wants to keep me? Can anyone make him? Sure enough, in the afternoon, my parents and sister came. My sister looked much better, but her expression was mournful and fearful. My mother seemed to have not slept well at all, looking terrible. Usually, she wouldn't even walk the dog without makeup, but today, for the first time, she was disheveled. My father, well, a man who couldn't even handle his wife's poor relations with his parents, letting my mother suffer under his parents' oppression for so many years without lifting a finger. What could one expect from him? My grandparents favored boys over girls, and so did my father. He was generally indifferent towards his 2 daughters. It's just that everyone said I was a debt collector, and that made them dislike me even more. The day Fiona fell ill was also the first time I saw my father so anxious about my death. With my death, he only had 1 daughter left. He could no longer afford to ignore things. If something else happened to Fiona, he would be childless, for someone nearly 50. The chances of having another child were slim. Austin, Linda's body has been lying there for a long time now. It's time for us to claim it for cremation, right? The whole city is in an uproar. Everyone is waiting to see how we handle this situation. If we delay any longer, it's bad for both families, my father said, frowning and looking displeasedly at Austin, who was clearly colder towards him. After all, he was supposed to be his future father-in-law. It was one thing not to respect him normally. But now, Linda will live. No cremation. Austin, his face cold, looked up and stared at the 3 people in front of him. The depth in his eyes startled them all. Fiona took a moment to compose herself and then squeezed out a tender smile, stepping forward to shake Austin's sleeve. Austin, I was so dangerously ill yesterday, and you didn't come to see me, were you? Angry with me over Linda's matter. I'm also heartbroken over Linda's issue. I really didn't know how my parents could. She knew. I slowly began. The day I died, she was on the riverbank, watching me tie the stones to my feet, watching me jump down. No, to be precise, she forced me to jump. I stared intently at Fiona, unaware that my mother suddenly looked in my direction, her eyes gradually filling with horror. You didn't know. Austin also laughed, as if seeing Fiona clearly for the first time, gazing at her face that resembled mine by 70 to 80%. Then, he laughed self-deprecatingly. Fiona, growing up, you were always in and out of hospitals, which led your parents and me to instinctively believe you were simply a pure and innocent girl. But now it seems, you lie so effortlessly, without even blinking. No wonder you've had us wrapped around your finger all these years with your convenient heart condition excuse. Fiona's expression changed, her smile became strained, and a flicker of guilt passed through her eyes. But when she looked up again, she resumed her pitiful, delicate, sick beauty demeanor. Austin, what are you talking about? How could I possibly know things that you all don't? Really? Austin scoffed coldly and suddenly slammed a stack of documents onto the coffee table. They were color prints of surveillance footage, clearly capturing her sitting beside my grandmother's bed, sobbing pitifully. The footage also recorded her smirking disdainfully as my grandmother was rushed out for emergency treatment, and it captured her face, full of mockery, as she faced my hysterical outburst. The difference between this fragile, gentle image of a sick beauty and her actual demeanor was stark, leaving both my parents dumbfounded, especially my mother, who looked at Fiona in disbelief. Fiona, you know Kathy, what did you go see her for? Fiona opened her mouth, but tears fell first. Yes, I know she raised Linda. I went to her because I was afraid Linda would cling to Austin and not leave, continuing to threaten my marriage. I wanted her to persuade Linda to stop seducing her brother-in-law, to stop being a homewrecker. I never thought that my grandmother would die like that, unsuccessful in surgery. I clenched my fists tightly, the hatred in my heart almost driving me to tear Fiona apart. My grandmother really loved me so much. How could she withstand such a blow? The last thing she wanted was to be a burden to me. I clearly remember that day. The weather was overcast and the hospital corridors were filled with the smell of disinfectant. With every breath, the moisture in my heart was drawn out, turning into knives, cutting through every capillary in me. The doctors and nurses cruelly told me my grandmother was gone, gone forever. I was mad, wanting Fiona to pay with her life. But then, my proud sister looked down on me and said, "Linda, what right do you have to demand my life? You still owe me for mine. As long as my heart condition exists, our mother will always pity me. She will despise you. What does it matter if Austin is addicted to sleeping with you? With me here, you'll always be the other woman." Actually, 10 years ago that day, I cried on purpose because I saw you and Austin playing in the garden. He gave you candy and smiled at you. He never smiled at me like that. He always just said, "I hope you get well soon." Why can Linda have that, and not me? So she used her advantage, with just a few casual words, to have our parents drive me out, to erase me from Austin's world. Linda, as long as I am here, no one in this world will ever truly love you. Yes, grandmother is gone. Who could truly love me now? Linda, you're really pitiful, valuing an old woman with no blood relation to you this much. Instead of thinking about dying with me, you might as well hurry up and die, so she doesn't have to walk the path to the underworld alone. In the surveillance footage, every word Fiona uttered was crystal clear in its replay. My mom covered her mouth, tears streaming down uncontrollably, unable to believe that these words were coming from her most beloved daughter. You drove Linda to her death. Fiona, she's your sister. No matter how much hatred you hold, you should have just let her repay you. How could you? What kind of statement was that? Did my mom really think that as long as she spared my life, it wouldn't count as destroying our kinship? That she would still qualify as a good mother? God, she might as well have driven me to death like Fiona did. She'd rather consider that Kathy her family. She doesn't even see you as her mother anymore. Wake up, Mom. Seeing this, Fiona stopped pretending. Her eyes filled with clear hatred as she looked at my mom. Her face, twisted with anger and resentment, was truly hideous. Mom, you and I are the same, both pitiful souls dragged down by Linda. It's so much better now that she's gone. The world is quieter. Linda even thanked me for enlightening her to end her life. Fiona was right in her harsh words. Her statement truly awakened me, who was utterly despondent at that time. I couldn't even bother with handling my grandmother's remains. Once someone is dead, does the location of their body really matter? I just wanted to hurry and join my grandmother. She loved me the most, and I couldn't let her walk the path of the underworld alone, so I dashed out of the hospital and jumped into the river without looking back, and Fiona, she followed right behind me, watching indifferently as I sank down without lifting a finger. Fiona's words rendered my mom speechless. The color drained from her face, as if she had just realized how terribly she had treated me. Fiona, you've won. Maybe twins are always like this, one to claim debts, one to repay them. It seems from the moment I was diagnosed with a heart condition, I was destined to be the debt collector. I wonder, back in the womb, did I really win? If I had known beforehand what kind of mother you were, I would rather have given you my life, letting you live enough for both of us. After saying this to Fiona, I sighed softly, suddenly feeling weary. I didn't want to listen to this drama any longer, and just wanted to go upstairs to hide for a while. No, Linda, don't go. A heart-wrenching scream came from behind. Startled, I turned around to see my mom staring at me intently, as if she had lost her mind, her eyes red-rimmed and filled with tired blood vessels. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Amid my confusion, my mom rushed towards me, tears breaking through, but after years of indifference, she couldn't really express any remorse. Linda, is that really you? Linda, please don't go. Okay, your sister didn't mean to drive you to death. Forgive her, and forgive. Even then, she was still speaking for Fiona. I numbly looked down at the leather shoes my grandmother had bought me and smiled helplessly. I always hoped that one day you would hug me, but look, it seems we really weren't meant to have a mother-daughter bond. Not even a hug now. She's not a good mother, so she doesn't want to be a mother anymore. Let's hope we don't meet in the next life either. My mom, trembling, reached out to hug me. But how could she possibly embrace me? Austin suddenly stood up and grabbed my mom. You can see her too. My mom showed a look of panic and nodded desperately. Yes, I can see her. Austin, you can do something, right? Can you save her? Fiona was utterly terrified by their actions. Her face turned pale as she stared in my direction, her voice rising in disbelief. What are you doing? Linda has long been dead. Dead? You all hated her, didn't you, now that she's dead? Who are you performing these gestures for? Austin initially didn't react to her words, but at the last sentence, he suddenly looked up sharply at her. This was the first time Austin had ever been so harsh to my sister. My sister was frightened. If you hadn't always instilled in me that Linda was just getting close to me out of habit, to compete with you, how could I have treated her that way? Despite all the bullying and grievances she suffered, she accepted all my requests. Yet I only thought she was trying to steal your things, wanting money. I was angry that I was never in her heart. Austin's voice was not loud, but every word carried an indescribable tone of desperate agony. I was stunned, my sister was also stunned, but then she burst into crazy laughter. Austin, do you think you are some kind of love god? Do you think by shifting the blame to me, you are faultless? After all, what difference is there between you, me, and my mom? All unwilling to accept our own miseries, transferring our anger to Linda, despicable people, why Linda was in need of money, why she agreed to be near you as my substitute. Are these things hard to investigate? But did any of you ever look into it? She explained so many times, sought so many opportunities to talk to you. Did you ever believe her? You did not, because you are all the same, only willing to believe in the Linda in your minds. A born thief and morally corrupt beyond redemption, Fiona has always been gentle and delicate. I never thought I would see the day when she would scream with veins bulging on her neck. My mom shuddered and looked up at her. Fiona, how can you say that? Linda is your sister. Sister, you never treated her as your daughter. Why should I treat her as my sister? Fiona had already dropped her facade, coldly looking at my mom. Mom, have you forgotten how you used to call her a debt collector? Saying she was undeserving. Now what? She's dead, and you suddenly awaken your maternal love. My mom's chest heaved, stuttering for a long time, but unable to utter another half sentence, because she was right. Everyone in this room contributed to my suicide, but none of them were the direct killers. They just used their cold violence, relying on my expectations of them, recklessly demeaning and hurting me. Fiona was right, ultimately, it was them. They never respected me. They saw me as a sinner, indebted to Fiona, and thus they felt justified in treating me poorly, justified in ignoring their own dark sides. Rhino horn. Turning her head, Fiona noticed a large piece of black rhino horn on the nearby altar, as if understanding something. Indeed, having lived in the hospital for so long, Fiona had read more than anyone present. Of course, she guessed what the rhino horn was for. I now understand why both my mom and Austin can see me. She suddenly stood up and lunged forward, embracing the rhino horn tightly in her arms, then turned and laughed wildly at my dad. Dad, even with the rhino horn, neither of us can see Linda. It seems like you, too, didn't really care about her. My dad, feeling his true thoughts exposed, angrily retorted in a low voice. What nonsense are you talking about? Am I, Dad? You don't truly love us, do you? Fiona sneered, shifting her gaze to my mom's face. Mom. The key to the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship was never about Linda. The real reason the grandparents don't like you is that my dad never stands up for anything. You refuse to admit that you chose a useless man and blame Linda instead. How are you any better than me? My mom covered her mouth tightly, not even sparing her a glance. She just cried and looked at me. Linda, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please don't go. I'll treat you better from now. Fiona, put it down. Austin's usual calm demeanor instantly shattered, his panic like that of a poor boy who had broken a precious antique, helpless yet frantically worried. Fiona looked at him, her sneer unending. So you really fell for her, didn't you, Austin? Weren't you always the fondest of me? We've been childhood friends for so many years. You've pampered and loved me all this time, and yet Linda took you away, didn't she? I won't let you see her. Not ever. Fiona picked up a lighter nearby, sparked a flame, and moved closer to the rhino horn. Austin immediately panicked. Don't, Fiona, please don't. Fiona's smile twisted, and her eyes reddened. She ignited the rhino horn, laughing and crying at the same time. I was just one step away from marrying you, from being happy. Why? Austin rushed over and pushed Fiona away, snatching the burning rhino horn from her arms. Fiona fell hard to the ground, clutching her chest and curling up. It hurts so much. Austin, save me. Please save me. She seemed to really be in agony, her lips turning blue, beads of sweat the size of peas forming on her forehead, but Austin didn't even look back, frantically trying to put out the fire on the rhino horn. Fortunately, the rhino horn didn't burn easily, only a little was charred before the fire went out. My dad had already rushed over, picking up my sister and heading for the door. Austin watched his retreating figure with a cold gaze, voice chillingly low, "Don't let her die. After she recovers, send her to where Linda used to live. Let her suffer what Linda suffered, otherwise, the William family will be ruined. Uncle Lin should know I'm not joking." My dad's footsteps halted abruptly. After a few seconds of silence, he muttered a subdued, "Hmm." In her agony, Fiona let out a mad laugh. Mad, we're all mad. As father and daughter left, only my mom's sobbing and apologies remained in the vast living room. I didn't even look at her anymore, just quietly staring at the black object in Austin's hands. I really wondered, could they really see me, just because of some rhino horn? And as if to confirm my suspicion, my mom suddenly screamed, "Austin, look, indeed. I was right, the rhino horn was just a distraction." My soul began to dissipate. The first thing to turn transparent it was my foot. Austin turned around and was almost bug-eyed when he saw this, incredulously stepping back. How could it disappear? I, on the other hand, felt quite relieved. "It's pretty good, isn't it?" "No, it's not good." Austin shook his head frantically, his expression twisted in pain as he cried silently, shocking me to my core. He was crying. The person who was so cold and composed when he saw my body is now crying. "Linda. Don't leave me, don't be so cruel to me, don't let me watch you disappear. I'll go mad with that kind of despair." I watched the madness intensify in his eyes and shook my head, saying no more. The soul's dissipation was not quick. 2 days had passed, and I had only vanished up to my shins. Upon seeing that my shins were gone, Austin displayed a desperate smile, as if he wanted to cry but couldn't. He hurriedly grabbed his phone, but no longer received any messages that could keep me here. After a few difficult breaths, he suddenly looked up at me. "Linda, what should I do?" His voice trembled violently. I quietly watched him. I watched as he got out of bed and frantically searched through boxes and drawers, trying to find even the slightest thing related to me, but in the end, all he found was a tiny corner of a photo, very small, just half of my eye, but to Austin, it was a treasure, which he held close to his heart. Tears poured down like rain. "Linda, I'm sorry. I was so angry before. I threw away everything you left behind. I even burned your photos. What am I supposed to do if you disappear? How can I see you again?" I tilted my head. "Then forget about me, just like you always do. After all, you will forget me sooner or later." I heard Austin clutch his head and let out a cry of utter helplessness. My mom also started coming here frequently. She brought bags and bags of women's clothing, and like a madwoman, she cooked meal after meal, carefully presenting each dish to me. "Linda, I don't know what you like to eat. Smell each dish, and tell me which one you like. When you come back, Mom will cook it for you, okay? And also, Mom bought you lots of pretty clothes, all matching mother-daughter outfits. Let's wear them together and go shopping, okay?" "No, I don't want to. I want to be with my grandmother." Fiona really had a stroke of luck and didn't die. She was saved. My dad, truly disregarding any familial love to stabilize the company, sent her to the place where I used to live. He only gave her $60 a month for living expenses, but the person taking care of her wasn't a kind person like my grandmother. It was a lazy, greedy woman with a temper worse than a spoiled heiress. Whenever Fiona expressed dissatisfaction, she would start cursing. She cursed horribly, always picking on things Fiona hated to hear. She called her an unwanted mongrel by her parents, called her a heart-pierced lotus spirit. She deserved this fate, once doted on by parents and lovers, now ignored even by dogs. How could Fiona stand it? She took the opportunity to run outside Austin's house, pleading with my mom to just take a glance at her. "Mom, didn't you always cherish me the most? My heart feels so terrible. Please come and see me, Mom." "Austin, look at me. Aren't you the ones who cared about me the most? Please, look at me." But my mom turned a deaf ear, only looking at me with a pleasing expression, searching for nearby scenic parks. Carefully, she asked, "Linda, are you bored at home? Do you want to go out for a walk with Mom?" I looked down at my arms, which had already vanished, and was truly speechless. She wasn't even scared of going for a walk in the park with just a head. Linda, Mom, has already filed for divorce with your dad. My mom suddenly put down the magazine in her hands, her eyes red as she looked at me. Fiona was right. I didn't see clearly. Marrying a man who is only interested in profit and indifferent to family, it's Mom's fault. I was useless. But Linda, please, have pity on your mom. Let me make it up to you, okay? I paused for a moment, thought it over, and finally spoke, saying my first words to her in days. Yeah, that's good, just keep living. My mom shuddered all over, and then began to cry uncontrollably. Linda, my Linda, how can Mom save you? How can I possibly save you? Suddenly, the door upstairs burst open, and a haggard Austin with a beard rushed down. He grabbed a fruit knife from the table, ready to slash his own wrist. I was startled. What are you doing? Austin's face had thinned down, resembling a drug addict, but his eyes were very bright. Someone just said, using blood to nourish the soul, we can share life. I can save you. Upon hearing this, my mom also stretched out her wrist. I can do it too, but I simply refused. But I don't want it. I was just ahead now. It was frightening. I even wanted to disappear quickly. This world is not good for me at all. I don't want to live. Just give me peace, and stop bothering me. Without you, I can be happy. I'll go to the underworld first. You all live well, live for many more years. Don't come down to bother me. Austin's face was full of panic. He begged me desperately. His face was so teary I felt like I had seen all the tears he would shed in his lifetime. Linda, please don't disappear. I beg you not to disappear. You've suffered so much, and we haven't treated you well yet. Don't disappear. Please tell me, how can I save you? How can I save you? In extreme despair, Austin fell into a sorrowful madness. As if out of options, he grabbed a handful of candies from the fruit plate on the table and held them out to me. Linda, I'll buy you candy. Will you stay please? I'll make your future life very sweet, very sweet. Please don't vanish. His hands were trembling too severely. Colored glass candies were shaken out in large numbers. My soul had already vanished up to my nose. Desperate, Austin slowly knelt down in front of me. I should pray to whom? Who can bring you back to me? My mom, having cried herself hoarse, clutched her heart and collapsed to one side, crying out my name. Linda, my dear Linda, Linda, I love. The voices trailed off into nothingness. Their desperate cries, like those of cornered beasts, slowly faded away. My consciousness wholly surrendered to the void. Before it dissipated, I thought, how wonderful. I hadn't heard that dreadful phrase. I found myself back in the underworld. The envoy of oblivion was still there, tending her stall, brewing her forgetfulness soup. Seeing me return, she didn't speak but simply handed me a bowl of soup. Try this. Is it good? I took it, inhaled deeply, and took a sip. Just as I closed my eyes, bracing myself to swallow, a familiar taste spread across my tongue. I opened my eyes wide. Grandma's soup. I laughed and then cried. Grandma, you picked it up quite fast. Should I be reincarnated now? Grandma must have moved on. I need to hurry to catch up. Suddenly, a breeze swept through, blowing off the envoy's hood. A familiar, loving face was revealed. Grandma, Grandma gently touched my head, her voice echoing through the underworld. The soup Linda loves. Grandma will keep making it, forever. After I passed away, it seemed my mother's mental state deteriorated. She couldn't successfully divorce my dad. Instead, he took her back, and she lived with Fiona. At first, Fiona was quite pleased. But my mother truly became delusional, unable to recognize people. Constantly holding the only ugly doll I had left at home, calling out, Linda, Linda. She cooked for it, bought clothes for it, bathed it, and put makeup on it. She poured all her maternal love into this doll. My sister, living by her side, became the new me, enduring our mother's neglect, insults, and disgust. Sometimes, even in the middle of the night, my mother would sneak into her room with a basin of cold water and douse her awake. Then, chuckling maliciously, she would scold. It's all because of you, this debt-collecting ghost, that my Linda ignores me. This debt-collecting ghost, and many other such behaviors continued. Amidst this torment, Fiona's heart condition showed signs of relapse, sickly every day. No one took her to the hospital. She hung on by a thread, enduring my mother's cold brutality, tears of regret flowing daily. Austin drank heavily for several days, ending up with a stomach ulcer. If Zoe hadn't found him in time, he nearly would have died in my old room. In the hospital, Austin stared blankly at Zoe, clutching a torn photo of me, his voice breaking with agony. I miss Linda, I want to die, but Linda told me to live, so I will live. Zoe sighed, took out a photo from her pocket, and handed it to Austin. Mr. Austin, this is a photo of Miss Linda I accidentally took with my phone. It only shows half her face. But, Austin took the photo, tears streaming down uncontrollably, through his tear-blurred eyes. He looked up at Zoe and whispered, thank you, thank you. After that day, Austin seemed to come back to life, no longer drowning his sorrows in alcohol. He lived and worked normally, but whenever he had a free moment, he would gaze at that half photo, lost in thought. Eventually, he agreed to cremation, burying me and Grandma together. The location was well chosen, facing the sea, serene and secluded. The area was surrounded by roses he had planted himself, blooming beautifully, on the tombstone. Our names were engraved, the grave of Kathy and her darling Linda. Yes, that's right, Kathy and her darling will have a wonderful future together. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.